good to see you. Is it working? All right, good. Just a quick story. When I was in seminary, I started seminary when I was still working at a church in youth ministry, and was trying to work and go to school, and it wasn't really working very well. But then I got laid off, so I went full time into seminary that spring, and but because of that, I didn't really know what was going on at the seminary, like what I was supposed to, like what classes I was supposed to take, what I was supposed to sign up for, what things I was supposed to do. And so come the like 2 months till summer, somebody mentions me, someone in my class goes, what are you doing for CPE? And I go, what is CPE? And they go, well, clinical pastoral education. You got to sign up. Everyone's doing it this summer. And I said, everybody's doing what this summer? And well, it turns out that I was supposed to sign up for and apply for a clinical pastoral education, which is the clinical part of of our education in seminary, to go to a hospital or a care facility or something like that to do the chaplaincy work that we are trained for in this job. And so I was like, I scrambled and I applied for the ones that were available, and graciously, I was late to it, but graciously I ended up in this CPE with a bunch of people who were doing distance learning. They were in their congregations and kind of going to seminary at the same time, and they were a cohort of people together, and then me. Because they had a spot available for it. And I tell you all of that story because Lisa was in that CPE, and I am so grateful for that experience because we did have such a wonderful group, but it gave me some really wonderful colleagues and friends, and Lisa was one of the people that I connected with most closely, I think, and just from the very beginning, I was just drawn to her personality, her thoughtfulness, her faithfulness, and so it's been really fun to stay connected. As it does when you go out into the world and you become pastors, that there's a bit of disconnect along the way when you get immersed in all the things. But then we went to this senior pastors conference, and she was there for Lutheran World Relief, and I was there as a senior pastor, and we spent this glorious afternoon in Tucson, Arizona, just floating in a pool. We just floated. We were just like on these floaty things, and we were just kind of floating around in the pool, but catching up again and hearing about her life and hearing about what she's doing. So I'm just so excited to have Lisa here this morning, and we've been able to connect more since then. But Lutheran World Relief, not just Lisa, but all of Lutheran World Relief, does some of the most important work in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm Lutheran. Lutheran World Relief and our Lutheran service organizations that we are connected with are doing some of the most important work in the entire world. Lutherans are at the front end of this stuff. And so I am immensely proud of the work that we do outside of the church and as a global church, very specifically with Lutheran World Relief. And so it's doubly fun for me this morning to have somebody from Lutheran World Relief, but to have my dear friend Lisa here. So if you would please help me welcome Lisa here to Trinity this morning.
Thank you. I really had no idea where you were going to go with that, and I thought, oh, what if I've said something I don't remember? Well, good morning. It really is lovely to be with all of you today. Just a little background of myself to add on to what Adam shared. Oh, was that me? Well, I don't think so. Everything seems fine from here. I live in Rochester, Minnesota. I work for Lutheran World Relief remotely from my home. I lead our congregational engagement team. And so I lead a staff of pastors and staff that are across the country and connect with churches all around the United States, connecting you all with the work of Lutheran World Relief around the world. And I say this often, and it is true. I'm going to say at least 95% of the time that I think I have the very best job in the world. I absolutely love what I do, and I believe so very deeply in the work that we are doing on your behalf all around the world. And so I am going to give you some background about Lutheran World Relief, and then even some more information of how you are being invited into this ministry during the season of Lent. So this is fluctuating all the time. So I will say as of January 1st, these are the 36 countries that Lutheran World Relief is working at around the world. And so we have an incredibly large footprint. We have staff and we have partners in these 36 countries, or at least we did the beginning of January. And we carry out this work in 3 different ways. So the first way is this emergency humanitarian response. Your congregation joined us in that very specifically when the war in Ukraine started. You gave very generously. I believe your youth group did a fundraiser, like was it a walkathon or something? That was amazing, supporting that work. And so when hurricanes happen, when there are wars, when there are major disasters, we're there on the front lines because you all make that possible. So that's one of the kinds of ways we work in the world. The other is through this long-term sustainable development. And so there are some countries that we have been working in for 35, 40 plus years, where we aren't just there when the emergency hits, but we're a part of this long-term sustainable development, helping to build up communities so that they can grow and prosper, and then we go to the next village. And then the final way that we do this work together is through our quilt and kit ministry. Did any of you ever grow up, or have you been or known a Lutheran World Relief quilter or someone who quilts for Lutheran World Relief? There are something like, I don't know, I think at one time we estimated 65,000 quilters out there quilting for Lutheran World Relief. In recent years, we collect something like $15 to $20 million worth of these quilts and the kits that we do. And I'll talk a little bit more about personal care kits, which is the ministry that you all are going to take part in. But there's also school kits and baby care kits, and you'll see a little bit of those here today. We are honoring 80 years doing this year. So we've been around for a very long time. We started at the beginning of World War II, and I'm going to let you take a look at where this all started. You'll hear some more, and how we're continuing this Lutheran legacy of love. One more.
80 years ago, our Lutheran forebears had a vision: to join together and be the body of Christ in the world, responding boldly to the needs of our neighbors in Europe after World War II. When they founded Lutheran World Relief in 1945, the outpouring of love was immense. Our grandparents got busy sewing quilts and organizing fundraising drives. Within just 14 years, American Lutherans had provided more than $100 million worth of aid. And we were just getting started. From our parents, we learned to see Jesus in the eyes of a stranger. We learned to stitch and tie and bless our quilts and the people who receive them. We learned to heed the voice that calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. With each passing year, God opened our hearts to the ever-growing needs in our hurting world. And so, over these 80 years of faithful service, our ministry together has grown. Today, together, we go where no one else goes, to the front lines of war and to places even cars can't reach. And we stay as long as we're needed to help families recover and rebuild. We can't predict where or when the next urgent need may arise, around the world or even in our own backyard. But we know we can always count on you to respond in love, and create a brighter future for the next generation. Nourishing the hungry, breaking the cycle of poverty, walking alongside families and communities so that everyone has a chance to thrive. Thank you for going farther, staying longer, and continuing the legacy of love that began 80 years ago until your love reaches every neighbor.
So this morning I'm going to share now some real specific stories of the ways these personal care kits are used. There are a couple back at the table here, but a personal care kit is a bath towel, 2 bars of soap, a toothbrush, and a fingernail clippers and a comb. And they're very specific items that our partners around the world have requested. And one of the things that we love about these personal care kits and that those whom we're serving love is that they're incredibly versatile. They can be used by a mother to care for a newborn baby. They're also very, very helpful in a time of crisis because it's often not what you grab when you're leaving are some of these personal care items. And so I want to share some stories of how they've been woven in to some of this emergency humanitarian response that we do. So if you remember in February of 2023, there was a series of earthquakes that shook Turkey. This picture on the left was before the earthquakes, and this picture on the right was after. And you can just see the massive destruction that happened. One of my colleagues, his name is Fred McRae, he leads our humanitarian work, and he has been in this line of business for 20 to 30 years. He was there when the tsunami hit. He's been throughout Haiti, and he says nothing compares to what he saw in Turkey. And so we have responded as Lutheran World Relief in a variety of ways. This is Erkan and Seda Halal and their 2 children. They lost everything when the earthquakes came through. One of the very first ways, as soon as, alongside emergency food distributions and water, was that we worked to build these container homes. So they're standing in front of their new container home here. There was a city of about 400 of these homes where now after months of sleeping under a rainy tent, they were able to gain access into one of these. And so that was some of our initial way of responding. Then we added more services with our partners. So there were young people who were isolated. School had yet to formally begin, and they didn't really have this community. And so we partnered with some, it's actually an organization called Young Life. Globally, it's a different Young Life than you've maybe heard of here in the United States. And this young woman's name is Dylan, and she's in a robotics class that was a part of. And she told my colleagues how it just made she just had a place to belong and a safe place where she could get involved in something and not just think about everything that she had lost. And then our Quilts and Kit ministry was an important part of this. And so we did not have quilts and kits in Turkey when the earthquakes hit. Sometimes we do have them pre-positioned in places globally and around the United States so that they're ready in times of emergency. And it can sometimes be very challenging to work with governments to get the quilts and kits to the people who need them. That was the case as a part of this response. And so I was frustrated because, when the earthquakes hit on Sunday, I would like everything to be there on Monday, but that isn't always possible. And what I was reminded is that God's timing is always better than my timing. And we met this family. This is Layla, is the woman on the right. It's her mother on the left. And just in time, I'll let you listen to their story.
Aynı yerdeydik ama tek bir fark evimiz vardı. Şu an çadırda yaşıyoruz. Serada kalıyoruz aynı şekilde. Depremden sonra da biz hepimiz işsiz kaldık. Şehir dışına depremden sonra çoğu kişi çıktı. Biz çıkamadık. Evimizi satmıştık. Yine çok zor oluyor. Kimi günler yıkanmadığımız günlerde ister istemez oluyor. Annem babam kronik hasta. Küçük bir bebeğimiz de var. Şöyle, bu depremden sonra elektrik kesintilerimiz çok fazla olmaya başladı. Biz normalde elektrikli sobayla birazcık ısınmaya çalışıyorduk. Naylon olduğu için odun sobası yakamıyoruz. Yakmak istesek bile bazen yakıtımız olmuyordu. Yaşamak biraz daha güç oluyor ama ayakta durmaya çalışıyoruz. Geceleri çok aşırı şiddetli soğuk oluyor. Yani sonuçta bir naylonun altında yaşadığımız için soğuğu daha çok hissediyoruz. Birkaç gündür de zaten yağmur hiç durmadı. Sanan battaniyelerimiz de oldu. Isınmamız çok güç oldu daha doğrusu. Eve girip bir şeyler çıkaramıyorsun çünkü evde hiçbir şey kalmamıştı. Bizim duvarlar anında çöktü. Şu an hiçbir şeyimiz kalmadı. Yani sizden çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Getirdiğiniz her şey için. Bu getirdiğiniz şeylerle hani daha iyi bir şekilde ısınmamızı sağlayacak. Özel hissettirdi bize kendimizi. Çünkü ulaşmamız çok zor. Yani bizi düşündüğünüz için yanımıza gel. Her şey için teşekkür ediyorum.
So we never know exactly where your kids will make it. They could be distributed here in the United States or somewhere around the world. Where they will go from your congregation is to one of our warehouses. We have two warehouses. One that is go off. Well, the green, there it is. There it is. Okay. Okay. All right. So we have two warehouses. One which is in South St. Paul, and one that is in New Windsor, Maryland, which is just probably about 45 minutes or so northwest of our headquarter office, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you remember, it was I think it was in earlier 2024 that the bridge collapsed right outside the port of Baltimore. So where that bridge is, I mean, 5 miles or so from where our headquarters are. And so we felt very closely connected to this in many ways. And we started to learn that many of the individuals who were on these ships, there were several ships that were stuck inside the port of Baltimore for months and months because there was no entry for them to leave. On these ships were, particularly, there were some Chinese nationals and others whose visas and passports did not allow them to leave their ship and enter into the country, which meant that for months they were stuck on these ships. And so we connected with the International Seafarers Association, and we brought quilts and personal care kits to each of these, I believe it was all men at the time, who were stranded on these ships. And so I'm going to let you hear this story in their words. But what I love is when this pastor says, those bars of soap were like bars of gold, because that's how valuable this was when they had really run out of their own resources.
world does not work without seafarers. 90% of the things we buy come via the sea. The folks on these ships make the world move, and they go unseen, unappreciated, and you may see the ships, you may see the gantries on the skyline that unload the containers, but you don't see the people on board those ships. They can be away from their families for 6 months up to 13 months. They miss births, they miss deaths, they miss weddings, they miss everything. And our hope is to help them feel closer to home. I believe that the gospel calls us to serve one another however we can. When the bridge collapsed, 8 vessels were stuck in the Port of Baltimore as a result, including the Dolly. Those crews are now stuck on board. They just can't leave. So we continue to do what we can for them. One of the most important things for me during this whole experience has been to show that the community cares about the people on board the vessels that are stuck here. It has meant so much to crew members to receive something personal, something that was handmade, and the quilts certainly represent that. They show that someone cared enough to make something for a complete stranger. The personal care kits have been indispensable. You'd think we handed them a bar of gold when we give them these personal care kits, because it's got everything that they don't think about needing until they don't have it. And the towels in particular have been an incredible gift. On behalf of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center, all of the seafarers that we have been able to serve over this last month, thank you for your generous donation. It has meant so much to the men who have been stuck here this whole time. They have been so thankful and appreciative of everything that you've done.
So I have one more personal care kit story I'd like to share with you, and it has to, and it's about, where'd he go? Okay, I don't have his picture yet. I want to tell you the story of a man whose name is Edward Lynch. I met Edward this past October when I was in Asheville, North Carolina, which is where this picture was taken. If you remember, Hurricane Helene and then Hurricane Milton really through the southeast, and in particular, a warehouse where we had our quilts and kits was probably maybe 3 blocks from this home that you see right here. The entire warehouse was completely untouched, and so it was amazing because there were so much of the response was coming out of this warehouse and coordinating people and meals, and so when we arrived, when my colleague and I arrived in Asheville, North Carolina, we met this gentleman named Edward Lynch. Edward is a veteran. He was in the Persian Gulf War. And what I hadn't known is that Asheville is home to one of the best VA clinics and hospitals on the East Coast. And Asheville also had been experiencing a large homelessness population. A significant amount of those experiencing homeless were veterans. And so some groups got together, an ecumenical group said, well, we're going to work on the problem of veterans experiencing homelessness, and they did. A week before this hurricane hit, there were 0 veterans living on the streets in Asheville and 165 men living in this restoration facility that had been built. And so they really came together and worked on this on problem and finding services for these veterans. And then the hurricane came through and just devastated this center where these men were living. So take a look. You'll see some of the footage we saw when we viewed this restoration facility.
So the rivers had risen, the ground was saturated, And Veterans Restoration Quarters is right upon the Swananoa River. That river began to come towards the Veterans Restoration Quarters. The staff there and the men there realized they needed to evacuate.
And the only thing I heard was the police saying it's a mandatory evacuation. So they told us to grab something, you know. But, you know, you weren't thinking about, you know, grabbing something like you ain't going to be able to come back and see nothing.
The water kept coming, and it rose to the second floor of the Veterans Restoration Quarters and really ruined a lot of the men's homes, the place that they had come to know as home. Right now, they got rooms that they're in and a place that they can take a deep breath and call home for a little while, and we're really glad to have that.
Our pastor had let her know that you all would be here and that we'd have a chance to hand the quilts out. So this is a really wonderful opportunity. And we opened several of them and allowed the men pick out whichever quilt they would like. And they also got a personal care kit. It really clearly brought joy to them.
Lutheran World Relief quilts and kits, being here in the area of Western North Carolina was a godsend, because one thing that we knew is that we needed to provide these guys a sense of home.
You know, it was just really heartwarming and fulfilling to see, again, to see the work of the hands of so many women and people across the country being used right here locally in North Carolina, where we've had such a devastating storm.
We are grateful to partner with Lutheran World Relief to help keep this a healthy and safe place for these guys as we rebuild.
Also, it's going to remind me of where I've been and where I'm going. I could say, well, I got this and I lost everything, and this is one of the first nicest thing I got that gave me something to hold on to in the midst of a crisis. God still blessed me, so, you know, my thing is I just try to share it with everybody else, that's all.
So here's sort of a look of what we have distributed so far in the Southeast. Quilts, but also more than $500,000 in cash grants to local organizations. Many of them are Lutheran partners who are on the ground and who know the people who are impacted and that we're serving locally. And so that has been this response. At this time, I want you to hear from one of your own members, Kathy Thunheim. Kathy is a member of our Lutheran World Relief Board, and she has long loved our organization, and I'm just going to let you hear from her.
I'm so excited about Trinity Lutheran Church's Lenten project. We're going to develop personal care kits for Lutheran World Relief. It's because this goes back in my family for many decades. Lutheran World Relief has been an international non-governmental organization for 80 years. And in 1945, right when World War II was ending, my maternal grandmother, Ines Knickrum, was a farm wife and a one-room school teacher in Groton, South Dakota. And after the war ended, her church called her and a lot of other ladies in the community to go into town and make quilts that would be shipped to Germany to help the orphan children and the families that were hurting so badly. And so for 80 years, I've heard about LWR. In 2016, I was invited to be a board member. This board is based out of Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and it's been such a privilege to learn about all the good they do in the world. Their mission is to save and improve lives for the poorest in the most vulnerable areas. And so they are in the countries where people need the most help, and they have been for all this time. At Trinity, you've been invited by Jill Cornell and our pastors and Lisa Kipp from LWR to be a part of this Lenten project where we're going to raise money and create these kits that we will send to people all over the world. And so I just want to say a thank you for your curiosity and consideration and time and energy to help. And second, I just want to be a champion of this project. So if you have any questions as a sponsor here, please let me know on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, or you can reach out and email me. Just ask Jill how to get to me, because I would love to share more of the story.
He couldn't be here today, but I know she will be around and available to answer questions when I'm certainly not in Long Lake. So before we move on, I want to move on to questions, but I did bring a couple of things with me today. So some of the work we do all around the world is coffee and cacao farmers. There is a location in Peru where some of the world's, that grows a high majority of the world's cocaine, which is called coca. And our Lutheran World Relief has gone into these areas, and we are serving these places, and we have created co-ops of women farmers who are now cacao farmers. So instead of farming cocaine, they're farming chocolate. And it's been incredibly successful. Their families, their villages, their lives have been transformed, and their chocolate is really very good. So I have some of that chocolate here with me today, and I have some coffee from our coffee farmers in Uganda, in Central Africa, just if you're familiar with Eastern Africa. So while I'm answering questions, I'm going to maybe Jerry and Adam, if you can help me, just pass these out. If you want to fill these out, then I will do a drawing to give away a bar of chocolate and a coffee. In the meantime, any questions that I can help answer? I've got, 100 more stories I can share, but time is limited. I want to make sure I answer any questions that you all might have. Yeah.
Is there a difference between Lutheran disaster response and Lutheran world relief?
Yes, that is a great question. The question was, is there a difference between Lutheran world relief and Lutheran disaster response? In many ways, the work that we do complement one another. Lutheran disaster response only responds to emergencies and is a specific ministry of the ELCA. Lutheran World Relief is pan-Lutheran, and we've been around for longer, and we work with all of the Lutheran church bodies. So Missouri Synod, LCMC, NALC, ELCA, we're working globally and in the U.S. For emergencies and beyond. There was another question, I think, back here. Maybe
Woman, oh, did you have one, Linda?
When the California disasters happened, was this the outfit that was collecting for them?
I believe you were collecting for Lutheran disaster response, right?
So you're similar in that you both respond to disasters,
but
right?
We're different organizations. Yeah.
Others. So we're getting excited. The topic of this, or the thread, was the personal care kits, and that's going to be our focus at Trinity during Lent. So we're trying to raise $8,000 to be able to buy these kits, and there are a couple ways you can just contribute financially. You can do that online or check, or you can buy items from Amazon that are listed on our shopping list and have those sent to your home and then bring them in so that we don't have dozens of boxes. So that is what we're getting excited about. And
excellent.
We want to do this by March 15th so we know what we'll need to pack on April 6th. That Sunday, we're going to have a big packing event for all ages.
Other questions? Otherwise, I also have some stories from Central America that I could share. I know your congregation has a long-standing partnership. Is it in El Salvador? Any questions?
No, the work
Okay.
that we're seeing is wonderful. I know, hearing from Kathy too, that she feels very passionately about this, and that Lutheran World Relief is there.
Yeah, we are. And I will tell you, I've seen our work in Honduras and in Tanzania and in Asheville, and I've been a part of some of the initial conversations to set things up in California. And what I'm so often amazed by is my colleagues and our partners around the world. They're just incredible. And the creativity and the research and the data that goes into the work that's happening is just incredible. One of the questions that people will often ask is if we're doing any work with immigrants in the United States. And we don't as an organization, but our work is more in the countries where many immigrants are coming from at addressing some of the root causes of poverty. And so this is Rosalina and one of her daughters, and I believe she lives in Guatemala, but I wanted to share this story with you because this is some of the ways that we really are at work in places like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, that sort of northern triangle area, and even into some of the other Latin American countries.
Este emprendimiento del hongo ostra lo hemos adquirido, o digamos nos han apoyado a través de Fundasistema, ¿verdad?
Nos organizamos entre todos los socios y dijimos que íbamos a intentar.
Incluso también no solamente lo pueden utilizar para consumirlo, sino también para poder venderlo.
Ya ganábamos nuestro centavito, ¿verdad? Para sostenernos, ¿verdad? Y ahorita a futuro que tenemos a través de estos emprendimientos ya no migrar. ¿Por qué? Porque generamos la economía, ¿verdad?
Nosotros en esa parte vimos también que los hongos son muy nutritivos también, nutriendo a los niños desnutridos, niños con bajo peso.
Con los ingresos que podemos obtener, pues podemos ayudar y sustentar a nuestra familia. Podemos generar ingresos aquí para ya no emigrar.
Emigramos allá para ir a buscar dinero, pero también aquí se puede, ¿verdad? Dedicarnos a nuestra parcelita y generar nuestro propio ingreso. Ahí gracias también a Lutheran, ¿verdad? Que también nos ha apoyado bastantemente, ¿verdad? El hongo ostra, ¿verdad? Que nos está generando.
Nosotros pues ya no tengamos que dejar nuestras familias en nuestros hogares. Aspiramos, ¿verdad?, a ser una empresa grande, ya no solamente vender aquí en el municipio, sino tal vez algún día exportarnos.
Eso es nuestro sueño de nosotras, crecer en grande y así ya tener un bien para nosotras mismas, así como grupo o ya sea individual, tener ingresos para nuestra propia familia también. Eso es lo que nuestro sueño de nosotras.
I love these hanging mushroom baskets. There's this area, there's this river called the Gandak River that separates India from Nepal. And we've been a part of this work there for a long time because it's in a region that sees mudslides every year. It used to be that the flooding would happen the same time every year. So every May it would flood, people would know, they could be prepared, they could move to higher ground. But the lowest caste people in the countries are really pushed to those margins where the flood and the mudslides would happen. And as the climate has been changing and weather patterns have been changing, so too they couldn't predict when these floods would happen. And people were dying and crops were being destroyed. And so one of the ways that we went, and it was a multi-tiered approach, but one of the ways that we started serving these communities along this river was by teaching creative flood-resistant farming projects. So hanging mushroom baskets, folks who live in this area now plant gourds and pumpkins on their roof so that when the floodwaters come through, their crops aren't destroyed. There's mobile seedling baskets. And so sort of some of these creative agricultural pieces are a lot of what we do in all different places around the world. I just learned this last week that the government of Tanzania recently approached our staff and said, we know about what you've done for coffee and chocolate farmers in Latin America. Can you do some of that work here too? And so a lot of these different approaches are similar around the world, but different for different contexts that we're in. And so I just really want to ministry, the personal care kits that you will raise funds for and assemble in the coming weeks are needed in so many different ways. They're a part of our response in so many different ways. So I just want to say thank you for that. I don't know, Jill, did you want to say anything? We should collect, can we help collect these cards? We'll give away some chocolate and coffee. It's really good chocolate too. So whoever chocolate can choose. It's called Corey Warm, which is the name of this co-op, which it means Women of Gold. And so it's this 3-pack. There's some quinoa chocolate, dark chocolate, or blueberry chocolate. So, and it's all very good. I always thought, oh, blueberry chocolate, it's so good, and there's chunks of blueberry in it, which you wouldn't think would be great. It is.
Right, healthy chocolate.
It's healthy chocolate. That's exactly right.
Well, you'll be able to find out more information about this on our website as well.
So there's a table display back there with a variety of resources. So, please feel free to take everything and have some reading material for the week. You can reach out to me with any questions if you have them. And we do have a lot of information at our website, which is lwr.org. So. And you can also give through the website, yes. All right.
So we're going to draw. All right.
I'm going to tell you something. You want to know who's won the last 2 times I've done this? The person drawing.
Oh, how handy,
It
Jill.
has just happened that way.
I did put my name. Did you notice how Jill popped up?
All right, so we'll draw for the coffee first. Okay, secret, they're all folded here. Am I going to draw? All right. Okay. Bob Thunheim.
Oh, Bob.
Have you had the coffee before, Bob?
Yeah, that's very good.
All right. Well, now Kathy can come home and you can say, look, we have new coffee. All right, mixing them up. All right. Is it Earl?
Earl Hansen.
This is the lucky section right here. All right.
Apparently.
Choose which chocolate you would like. So dark, quinoa, or blueberry. You can't go wrong with dark chocolate. Let's give them all the way here. I'll draw 2 more. Okay. Jerry Paulson.
Mr. Paulson, that side.
All right, I hope you all okay, quinoa or blueberry?
Quinoa. I actually have some of this at home in my cupboard.
You do!
Variety,
and that's your favorite.
Oh, now we know Jerry has a stash.
I mean, he had some research behind this selection.
Yes.
That's a first. Okay. Camille. All right, blueberry chocolate it is for you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Could I close in a prayer, or do you have a...
Please, that'd be great.
Okay, let us pray. God, thank you so much for people of faith all around the United States, all around the world, and those who are gathered right here today. God, you call us to love our neighbors, neighbors who we may never meet, neighbors who don't look like us, neighbors far from home and right next door. God, empower us in this ministry of loving our neighbor. May we go forth from this place and see opportunities to share our love, your love, with the world. God, I give you thanks for Trinity, for the leaders and the people here, and all of the ways that they will join us as partners in this life-saving work. Amen. Thank you so much for coming.